Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to cover the ins and outs of Nearpod. So before we get started, I want to show you what a finished Nearpod looks on the teacher end and on the student end. So this is my Nearpod account. I am a platinum user. My principal actually bought this for me and the other sixth grade math teacher. So we are both platinum users and we like to work together. That's why the names on some of these presentations are different. We just shared our presentations with each other as we finish them. So going through, I have some folders with my standards on them. To make a folder or even to make a new Nearpod, you just click the plus sign. You can create a lesson in Nearpod. You can create a lesson in Google Slides, which would be very similar to how you would make lessons in Pear Deck. You can make a folder, and we didn't really use subplans just because no one in our school was connected with this, not even the administration. So it just didn't make sense for us to use it. But I have a couple of folders with some standards. So just looking into it, you can put whatever you want into it. You can name your lessons, anything that you want. So let's just say I kind of want to preview this lesson, see what I put in it. You just click preview and it lets you kind of go through kind of almost as if you were a student to see what it would be like, and you can kind of go through and see what's in this lesson. So if I want to present this to my kids, I just click live lesson, and from there, this pops up. So it gives you a code. If you use Microsoft Teams, you can share this with your students through there. If you use Remind with your students, you can do that, or really Google Classroom is really easy to do because then they don't need this code. They can just automatically click and sign in. But again, we never really used any of these features. We just found it easier that as the students come in, they see this, they know to go to Nearpod and type in the code. So from there, this is the warm-up. So I have 9 minutes on as a timer just because I would literally start this activity as soon as the bell rings. And between passing period and the 4 or 5 minutes I might give them to do their warm-up once class begins, that's usually enough time. I want the kids to be able to come in and I want them to be able to start working immediately. So I usually put the timer in for a while. So if you need to redisplay the code's always in the top left-hand corner. To click it, you can make it bigger. So I entered in the code wrong. So on the student's end, once you start the activity, it will look something like this. So they can read off the question, or they did add this reader in, the reader feature, so it can read to them. And I think it works pretty well, actually.
Sean is making statues out of clay. Each statue needs...
But that works pretty well. I like that. So they can go ahead and answer. So this is a question that they should already know how to do. This is their warm-up. Once they're done, I'm just going to put in a number and hit submit. So they get something like this. They can edit their answer as long as there's still time. And on the teacher end, you can see, okay, this person submitted their answer. I can share the answer with the students once time's up or whenever I want. And students will see it pop up. They won't see any names on their screen. Now, this is what's being presented onto the board. So if I don't want anyone to see who answered what, I can hide students' names. So they would be able to see all the different answers, and you'd be able to go through and scroll through really quick. You can share the different answers. You can see, based on how many kids have entered the classroom, you can see how many kids have actually participated. So one thing it didn't show, because I had already previously signed in, was when the kids enter the code on their computer, they have to type in their name as well. So it's really some best practices if you remind them on the daily that they need to use their real name. So if they don't use their real name, I always told my students, I'm going to boot you from the lesson, and I would keep doing it until they put in their real name. So to remove someone from the lesson, you just click the X and they're gone. So moving on, I have my objective in there for the students, and sometimes just to be funny, I would let the computer read to them, especially if my, voice was going out that day for whatever reason. And then let's see. Sometimes it takes a minute to load, but one thing about Nearpod is you can embed websites into the lesson, which is great because if you have a website you want the students to work on and search through, it will pop up for them and they don't have to go searching for it. So for this one, they also have you can directly insert vocabulary. They have a lot of really nice videos for different subjects that kind of help students get an understanding, but they're very catchy and they're song based. So we would add these into our lessons sometimes and watch them as a class. Then I would have the I do portion or the instruction portion. It's just usually one slide and I kind of just show them how it's done. So for this, to write over my screen, we used Active Inspire. So I don't have it on this computer to show you, but there is a way you can do a desktop overlay, and I would be at the board writing over my screen. It wouldn't show on the student's screen, just on the board, but it got the job done. So from there, I would give them formative assessment questions and give them practice questions. So before you start, it will say time for a question. It will let them know how much time they have. And I have to click start activity and it gives them a countdown. So this is an open-ended question again. So they would have to type in their answer. You can click on the picture on their end, they can make it bigger, or even on the teacher end, you can click this so you're hiding the answers and the students can't see what other people are putting and they just have this on the board. That's usually what I did. Moving on, I realized in this lesson I didn't have any drawlets, but I'll go back and show you what that looks like. There's also a poll feature. So again, you can show names, you cannot show names, but I really like to use this toward the end of the lesson to see like how students really felt about this. I never gave them a lot of time, so I told them to quickly answer. So that way we kind of gauged as a whole class, you can see how everyone felt. So you would have a bunch of different answers and you would see the majority of the class, maybe they feel iffy about it, maybe they're in the middle, or they don't feel good about it at all. And you can share the results with the class. Again, not showing names, but it's just good as a class to see how do we feel about it in general. So I love that you don't have to show names. It really gives the students time to be honest with you and how they really feel. You can always go back and see who feels like what. The collaboration board, I love this. Sometimes I would use this for exit tickets or maybe think, pair, share and have them write their answer in the collaboration board and we go over it. So you can approve comments before they're posted if you feel like maybe your kids might post something inappropriately. I never use that feature. I trusted my kids. I set a really good precedent that we will never do this again and we will have boring lessons if y'all mess this up is pretty much what I did. And they were really serious about it. They did a good job. So I never had to approve any comments. But explain to me how you divide fractions. So this is the teacher end. You can even share your thoughts or images. And this is what it looks like on the student's end. So I'm just going to do KCF, keep, change, flip, and post that. If I wanted to, I could even post a picture. You can look up divide fractions and see what comes up. And the students love this. They would find some crazy, awesome pictures and post it. And it was really good talking points. So I'm going to post this again too. So you can show names on this one if you choose to. I usually did. I didn't have a problem with it. So you can see who posted what. You can talk about it. You can click on the pictures. It's a really great talking point and the kids love it. So at the end of your session, you can end session. You can click reports. It will email you a report, but there's also another way you can go ahead and look at the reports. And give me 1 second for this to load and I'll show you. So on the side panel here, we have reports. So you can go through and see all the reports from any lesson you've taught actually. And even if you don't have a premium or platinum version, this is still a free feature. Most things on Nearpod are actually free to use, which is great. But you can go through and see who answered what. So I taught this so many different times, how many students. So I'm just going to use my example. So if you had more students, you'd see all of their names. You could see generally like how well they participated. You always want to try to aim for 100% participation. You can see who answered what on the activities. So I really love this. It's a great way to just go back and check when you have some free time or if you need some data. You can always download it as well. So going back to my library, I really want to show you guys an example of the Draw It feature. We'll just do this one. It's something in math that we use a lot, and it really allowed us to kind of go away from paper. So with the Draw It feature, and I'm going to need to join this lesson. So to join a Nearpod lesson, it's just join.nearpod.com. Or they can go to nearpod.com. It's all the same. And they can join a lesson from there. And when you're joining a lesson, like I said before, it should pop up and ask you to put your name, and you can join session. And usually if they've joined a session before, it'll still have their name there. But here's a Draw It feature. Again, this is their warm-up, and the timer is set for 9 minutes. So as soon as they come in during passing period, they can start working on it. So if the students have a touchscreen computer, this works really well. If you're trying to do 16 minus 14, maybe you want to set it up differently, and you can get your answer that way. I was actually able to get a class set of mouses for my students, and that worked really well for them, and they liked it a lot better being able to draw. So it's really great. They can show work. If they don't want to draw, they can also put a text box, which some of the students like that a little bit better, just to type in their answer, and it looked cleaner. So they could put like 16 or whatever the answer might be. They can insert pictures and look it up from Google. They can highlight things, which would be a really great feature for maybe some ELAR classes when you're talking about passages and text. So there's so many different features that you could use here that would substitute paper. So for us, we didn't use paper. Not that often. We did whiteboards and we did the Draw It feature. And the great thing about this is their work, when you do the Draw It feature, it saves in the reports. So I can go back and see what a student may have drawn, or what kind of math work or calculations they did. So they can submit it, and they can also go back and edit if they still have time. So that's what the Draw It feature looks like. Now I want to go on and show you how to basically create your own Nearpod. So there's a couple different ways. You can create it in Nearpod or create it in Google Slides. I usually created mine in Nearpod for the most part. If you really wanted a lot of like custom themes and backgrounds, it might be better to do it in Google Slides. But I'll start off with showing you how to do it in Nearpod. So first things first, it opens up this page, you can title your lesson. So I'm just going to title it Demo, if I can type today. Then you can add a slide. So when you click this, and they've changed this since the last time I've been on here, there's so many different things you can do. They have content and they have activities. So you can add a slide, which would usually just be like a text, a picture, video, really anything that you really want it to be. You can do GIFs, which sometimes I did. It was pretty cool. But basically, we would use this kind of for our objective. You could do whatever you want. You could say questions, and maybe you wanted to add a GIF. And I really like that it embeds like the Google search feature, just because it's easy to find these GIFs. Let's just use this one. Any questions? I love it. So then you would click save and exit if you were done. You can add a background if you want. You can change the layout. Maybe you want it just like this. This would actually be title and then one element. Or maybe you just wanted just the GIF. You could do that. If you wanted two things, maybe any questions and maybe some sentence stems, you could do that as well. I have no idea what you would use 4 elements for. I'm sure some people might be really creative and have a use for it. You can also now insert audio onto your slides. So if you're maybe doing a student-paced lesson and you wanted to still give some type of instruction or make it personal, you can add an audio file, or you can actually record straight from Nearpod. But once you save the slide, it'll update and say saving slide, and then you can go on and make your next slide. So for this one, if you did web content, that's basically just adding in a website, and you just type in the URL and you're good to go. So I guess I've used Math Playground a lot. I'll add that in. And you can always preview what these slides look like from this page. You can test the link and make sure everything goes through. So if I wanted to preview what I have so far, I just click preview, and sometimes it takes a little bit to generate, but you can kind of see the flow of your presentation and what it would look like. So if they clicked open web page, it would just open another box for them, and they'd be able to do whatever they need to do on the web page. Great thing about this is when you move on to the next slide, their web page automatically closes down. So I really love that you have control of that. So that could be really handy. Moving on, they have virtual field trips. So I'm so disappointed that I've never been able to use this in math, but maybe if you are a social studies teacher and you wanted to just let your students see what it was actually like, maybe you're talking about a certain place, maybe you're talking about, the Aztec Mayans, maybe you're talking about Islam or something like that, you could take a virtual field trip to Mecca. And so you can just Google place, and of course it's going to take forever. Okay, here we go. So you can Google Mecca. So I think I've used this example before. And so I'm going to preview this so you can see what it looks like. So basically it's kind of like a Google Street View version of what the place looks like. So it's just, I've always thought that it was really cool just to be able to see what this looks like. And, if you're a social studies teacher, you know that in Islam, Mecca is a very big deal, and it's usually a once in a lifetime pilgrimage. And so just to be able to see it from here is pretty cool to me. And I think your students would get a real joy out of it. So that's virtual field trips. If you wanted to add in a PDF for them, you can. Microsoft Sway, I never really used this, but you could use this if, again, you're maybe talking about history. They have some great ones for science, like amphibians. Let's just do this one. And so you can see what it looks like. So it's basically just a page with information. So this is just going to be a page. It's a little interactive. They can kind of go through and learn about amphibians. So I love that they have some pre-built ones for you. Maybe if they didn't, you can make your own if you know about Microsoft Sway. I do not. But basically you're just going through and you're scrolling down the page and learning about amphibians. So we know that they have moist skin. They're covered in mucus. That's gross. And they have the scientific names, their diets. So it's just kind of like an informational page. And this could be really good if you're a science teacher. I'm going to add another slide. You could do a slideshow of pictures. You could have a slideshow with maybe just audio, just a video slide, a live Twitter stream. I'm not exactly sure how you could use that in class. Let's see, Nearpod 3D. So again, this is probably more of science or social studies. If you're talking about anatomy, they have a full body. Let's see, ancient times. If you're talking about, the Aztec and you want to talk about the Aztec temple, you could really click on this and see like how steep the steps are. I'm pretty sure that's something you talk about. Again, I'm not a social studies teacher. So here is a 3D model of the Aztec temple. You can kind of like zoom out and zoom in. You can move it around. You can see how steep the steps are. You can see, I feel like these steps are really tiny. But again, it's just a 3D model, which would be really cool for you to use in class. Okay. And the last thing for content is the PHET simulation. This is really good for science and math. They have some fraction builders, they have equalities, and just some different things. We didn't really use it that much. I feel like this is more for maybe like eighth grade. They have like graphing, and I believe they even have Desmos built in. So I just thought that was really cool. For science, it's maybe a little bit cooler because maybe you're doing a lesson on building light. So I thought this was really interesting for the kids. I mean, you could always do a lesson in person, but if you're doing distant learning, this could be a really great way to still get them that same simulation. So then there's a bunch of other stuff that you can move and edit. There's intensity, all these great things. So it's just something to check out. And again, with Nearpod, you do have to kind of play around because there are so many different things you can do, and I don't want this video to be an hour long. So I'm going to kind of quickly go through the activities. So you saw what open-ended questions look like. You saw what the poll looked like. That was when I asked the students how they felt. You saw what the collaboration board looked like. It's basically sticky notes. They have different themes that you can do if you like different looks. Let's see, what else do we have? I know that they have integrated Flipgrid. I haven't actually gotten a chance to use that with my students within Nearpod, but I'm sure as long as you have a Flipgrid account, it's basically built in. You just put the teacher URL and then the student URL. So I guess it just automatically uploads into Flipgrid. But that's something new that they've added in. So we also have time to climb. You are almost going to regret doing this because after you do it for a while, if maybe you take a little break, your students will bug you so much that they want to play. So basically, Time to Climb is a game. They make a character and they answer questions to get to the top. And there's a leaderboard that you present on your board, and it basically how quickly they answer the question as well as accuracy, they get more points. So I always gave the top 3 students that won some candy. Sometimes we would play it twice in the day. The kids really loved it. So if you have kids that maybe don't really seem engaged or even really want to learn, they're definitely going to want to play Time to Climb. They always do. But you basically make your own questions. The time limit only goes up to, I believe, a minute. Is it a minute 30? Yeah, a minute 30. So again, these can't be very high level questions that it's going to take a while for them to work on. But it's still a really fun way just for the kids to get some good practice in. So you can do as many or as little questions as you like. I recommend at least doing pretty much 10 questions because it goes through quick. If the students all answer it, it will move on to the next question before the timer's up, as long as everyone answered. But students love it. You saw what the Draw It feature looked like as well. The quiz feature is basically just what it sounds like. It will show on the board the percentage of correct questions and the percentage of wrong questions. But you can add as many questions as you like, whatever the correct answer is. If there's more than one or just one, make sure you check it. And again, you have some options here. You can type the question, you can put a picture, a video, some audio instructions, and you can even put a timer for the quiz. So the timer for the quiz, it isn't on a per question basis. It's however many questions you do, that timer is for them to get through all of the questions. So if it's 5 minutes, they have 5 minutes to answer these 2 questions, not 5 minutes per question. So you can do that as you wish. I mean, that could be a really good strategy for an exit ticket if you want. We personally didn't use it that much. Our exit ticket was usually the poll. We just wanted them to take some time to reflect how they felt about the topic and really what they learned and if they understand. Matching is just what it sounds like. It's matching cards. So one way that you could use this in math, basically you would have an answer and then you would have the problem. And they would just have to match the cards. Now, you do get to see if students are just guessing, and I usually put the names up and I will call students out and be like, why are you guessing? And students would still guess. I mean, they didn't care that I called them out. They thought it was funny. But for the most part, the students were really good. Fill in the blanks. So you can choose a style however you want. And then you just need to enter in whatever, like it could be definitions, whatever you want to type. I'm going to do demo. I'm not typing correctly at all. Demo. And then once you type out everything, so let's just say you have a vocabulary word, but you want to take out a keyword. You're going to click whatever you want to take out. And then once you're done, the students will be able to drag and drop. So basically you're basically taking out the words that you want them to fill in. And so we can preview that one. And again, takes a little bit to load sometimes, but they'll have the words and they'll just drag and drop and hit done. And it'll tell them, oh, you got 2 out of 2 correct. So that's great. So basically we would use this for vocabulary and we would do it as fill in the blank. So that's one way you could use it. So that's pretty much covering all the different features and activities that you can do in Nearpod. And that's how you would create one in Nearpod. Now, if you wanted to do one in Google Slides, I'm just going to briefly go over this. It's very simple. You just click open a lesson in Google Slides. Make sure you pick the correct Google account, and then it will open for you. So if you already have the Nearpod add-on in Google Slides, you could literally just go through Google Slides and then click on add-ons and then click the Nearpod add-on and open Nearpod. And so it's going to open this panel for you. And this is really if you want to customize your slides with themes. You could do like Halloween and Christmas and Valentine's Day or whatever. You can insert different backgrounds that will fit on all of the slides. But if you wanted to, let's just say, add in a collaboration board, you can do this from Google Slides. Just click collaborate. Enter topic, how was your weekend? And again, I don't know why I can't type today, but let's just put that in. And basically it will insert it into your slide, and this will actually save into Nearpod for you. So you won't be able to actually see it. You can edit it. You can edit what you want on it, but you can't actually interact with it through Google Slides. But again, you could save and you could go to Nearpod and it will be there. And again, you do have to actually present from nearpod.com. So it's not like Pear Deck where you can present from the Google Slides itself. You do need to go to Nearpod. But again, sometimes it takes a little bit to save, but you could do a live lesson, and whatever was in your Google Slides will basically pop up here along with whatever interactive features that you uploaded. So again, our collaboration board, how was your weekend? And you can type in good. And it shows that I typed that because I'm the teacher. So that's basically how you can do that with Google Slides. They do have all of their features. If it closes out on you, again, just reopen the Nearpod add-on and you have access to all of the activities and all of the content that you want. Oh, it's probably because it's open. So you can't open the slides and the lesson at the same time. But again, that's how you do it in Google Slides. If you have more questions on that or like a separate video, let me know. And then there's just one last thing before I let you guys go that I really want to show you, that if you have a premium version, and even if you don't, this is really great. It is the Nearpod store is really what I like to call it. So again, from here, from your homepage, click Nearpod Lesson Library, and then you can search by subject, by grade level, and you can even search by your state's standard. So whatever you guys use in your state, you can search for that. I'm in Texas, so we use TEKS. And I teach math. and I teach 6th grade. So we have all of our standards here. So let's just say we're talking about solving one-step equations or inequalities. Okay, it's going to pull up all of the pre-made resources for you. So if you don't have the premium version, some of these lessons might be a few bucks, up to $5, I think. And if you really think about it, think about how much money you spend on TPT. You know, if you really need a lesson on the fly and it was very last minute, it's a really great resource to have to just go in and buy a pre-made lesson. If you have premium, I don't think you have to pay for any of the lessons. So what I really like about this, I'm going to preview this lesson. You can edit these lessons to be exactly what you want. So maybe you don't necessarily like everything about the lesson, or maybe it's not long enough for you. You can go in and add in your own personal touch. You can delete some things. Like this one has the objective for us. It has directions. I like the cues. Let's get started. That's a good question. I like that it's already using the draw it feature. So if I like it, I'm just going to say add to library. And then you can show in my library. And then from there, you can open it up, or you can edit it from here as well. So I'm going to say edit lesson. So from here, if I want to delete a slide, I can click on it. I can click delete slide. This slide is a draw it slide already, and sometimes you can just go ahead and convert the slide automatically to a draw it slide if you wanted to. So it's really awesome. I can go ahead and add slides if I need to. So let's just say I wanted to add, again, this maybe mathplayground.com in there. So it's going to go at the very bottom, but let's say that I want to go somewhere in the middle. You can drag and drop wherever you want the slide to go. So it's the same thing if you were in Google Slides. You would have all your slides on the side and you can drag and drop. So that's pretty much it for Nearpod. If you have any questions at all, make sure to leave a comment down below. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more EdTech tips.